Welcome everybody to our webinar week 2021. There we go. Today with us, a veteran of our digital weeks, third time, Samir Aliyev, this time with the role of leadership in security. Samir, you have your guests here and the floor is yours, please. Go for it.
Thank you very much, Julia, and welcome to our webinar, everyone, in our webinar today. And we are pleased to be with you online and to talk the main insights in cybersecurity, because recent significant cyber attacks on government agencies, defense and technology companies have made people around the world aware of the danger that cyber crimes pose to our society, to our communities. Cyber crimes is also seen as a threat to all sides of business, from tech giants to the small SMEs. In this webinar, we are going to talk the main challenges and outcomes of the role of leaders in cybersecurity, of the management role in cybersecurity. Therefore, I'm pleased to invite two guests from Switzerland and to discuss several questions and the bullet points with them. Before I introduce my guest to you, I would like to remind you some housekeeping rules. This is a recording session. The session will be available later on YouTube, and you can ask anytime your questions and we will be happy to answer them. For that, please use Q&A button on the bottom of your windows. First of all, I would like to welcome Erika Mehta. Ms. Mehta is a business analyst and a consultant with experience in business modeling, performance and scenario analyst. She was an external consultant to the management of Swiss Window AG, the company that filed for bankruptcy after cyber attacks in 2020 in St. Gallen, actually. She was also a coordinating IT department, which was outsourced to external partner with first level support employee in-house. Erika, welcome to our session, and we are pleased to have you here. And I would like to introduce our second guest, who is Dr. Doron Zimmermann, who is a cybersecurity officer at UNI Technology, Switzerland. Dr. Zimmermann is a seasoned security manager with national security background at the cabinet level in government and executive team, board level in private and the public sector. He is also skilled in corporate security management, strategic security design, crisis and emergency management. Today, we are going to talk the role of the management and some advice to the decision makers in security awareness and cybersecurity. I'm the host of the program of the event. My name is Samir Aliyev, and I'm a director of data protection CAS program at the Executive School of St. Gallen, University of St. Gallen. In the same time, I'm a founder and the CEO of Swiss Cyber Forum and Swiss Cyber Academy. Dr. Zimmermann, I would like to start first with you, and I have some questions prepared for you, and we will be grateful if you have some good insights for us to share with our community today. Maybe it will be a good takeaway for them. You are holding a position cybersecurity officer at UNI Technology, Switzerland. Could you please share with us what are the main challenges that excites you in that role?
Yes, first of all, thank you very much for having me on the panel. Much appreciated. And as to your question, I think it's the breadth of different challenges that one has to meet in daily business. So this would involve everything from the more day-to-day work in terms of internal security control, but of course also stakeholder management, internal as well as external. And I think it is the external and strategic security stakeholder management role that I particularly appreciate, since you've just elaborated quite generously on my background. That is I think, mainstay of what I've been doing in the past. So this is the work with regulators, with customers, of course. It is industry peers and other related stakeholders.
Very good. Thank you very much, Mr. Zimmermann. And one of your area you are skilled in cybersecurity is role-based security awareness coaching and training at all levels. How do big organizations like yours use security trainings and coaching? What are the main takeaways that you can share with us?
Okay, first of all, I'd have to make a general comment. So I do not approach cybersecurity as a, let's say, purely technical challenge to be met. So I come from the security management side of things, as it were. And for me, the centerpiece of it all is the comprehensive view on security. So when we talk about cybersecurity, to me, this is not IT security, but it really connects all types and aspects of security together. More recently in cybersecurity, that would, for example, also pertain to the supply chain and supply chain security. So manipulation, for example, in the supply chain, man-in-the-middle attacks. As to your question and the coaching, I think that message is very, very important, I think, to be placed at the executive level, that security, whether it's cybersecurity or it's more traditional corporate physical security, is a comprehensive endeavor. And any kind of stovepiping creates new vulnerabilities. In my coaching, that is one of the key messages. And then I would also say much neglected areas that, to my mind, also are a bit problematic, say, because they're not easily communicable at the decision-making level. To mind comes the what is commonly called the insider threat, which is a very, I think, also emotionally difficult type of challenge to meet. So having a bit of a background in also government security, euphemistically information security, I have had an opportunity to address this type of problem, more commonly known also as counterintelligence in state security organizations.
Yes.
And I think any type of organization has this type of challenge to meet, and it behooves us to actually more openly approach this as a current, well, not just current, but in the cybersecurity context, very current type of threat, which of course has a very different potential to wreak havoc than, say, a standard external attack. A well-known truth, but you'd be surprised how little I think that particular aspect's being discussed. So when I coach, I also coach, for example, on quote unquote cyber or counterintelligence for corporates. That's one of the areas where I try to help.
Great. Mr. Zimmerman, what's the common misconception today about the insider threat? Because we know that it's one of the biggest threat to the company's organization. What's the common misconception for the companies? How they can detect the insider threats, the vulnerable area in the company?
So yeah, let me give you a little bit of background here. I was really struck by, as I wrote to you, how different, purely in terms of breadth, depth, and maturity, from the private sector inside threats are being viewed by government security organizations. My impression is that businesses mistakenly believe that the advent of insider threats is a more recent phenomenon, as I alluded to before, and that they accordingly shaped an entire nomenclature, being confined to basically malicious employees. And I think that's a bit facile. Colleagues in the security industry, to the extent that their respective business environments allow them to engage with the type of insider threat that we're talking about, yes, that is part of the problem. Know that there is no real boundary to provenance, motivation, tradecraft, support network of an insider threat. Insider threats can originate in states, or parastatal or higher or allied non-state organizations, be ideologically or financially motivated, be professionally trained to overcome surveillance, befuddle investigations, and resist trained intrigators. So it's a very professionalized business, really. And I think we need to step away from this conception, oh, it's the disgruntled employee. Yes, it can be, but there is a whole range of scalability that we have to take into consideration. So hence it makes sense to understand that the distinction between different capabilities of defense and security related espionage, for example, economic and industrial espionage and sabotage, is really important to understand. Insider threats are not necessarily disgruntled employees. They can be defectors in place. I mean, they can just be waiting for a long time to be recruited. They can be like whistleblowers, well-meaning whistleblowers who've turned malign. There's like an you know, incredible like ecosystem, if you will, out there. And one of the big problems, of course, is that we don't like to talk about it. And why is that? Because nobody likes to suspect anybody working in the same organization with them. And I think trying to raise the subject in a professional manner is challenging in and of itself, because the sort of balancing act always is not to fall prey to some form of unnecessary paranoia. And so I think it also is very important to carefully approach this subject so as not to affect the climate in an organization. So
very good.
These are all parts of the challenge, and this is why it's so difficult, I think, to have that conversation.
Very good. Thank you very much, Mr. Zimmerman. And how would an organization or SME company in Switzerland go about building a strong top-to-bottom security culture? What's the main the advice from your side?
So I'm going to quote the often cited truism that culture eats strategy for breakfast. And I think that's where the to me at least potential solution lies. I have seen organizations who have clearly said we want to change our culture, and we want the culture of change.
Yes.
And I have on the ground seen that this is a pronouncement at the top, and it doesn't translate into the ranks. So I think the first challenge is to actually make a credible case for that change within your organization. And I think it does have to come from the top. And what is very important for credibility reasons is that the top takes on a role model and leadership role. So they have to abide by their own rules. I think then introducing what that actually means in concrete terms is also very important. This is one of the most challenging steps, so that something tangible can be discussed within the organization in terms of developing a security culture in the company. Why do we want it? Very often security is a support process in many organizations. It is mistakenly, in my view, understood as such, because it is not a support process. It is a either leadership process, if you want to look at it that way, because it is the mother of all cross-cutting topics, or otherwise it is a baseline. And I think this is yet another perspective that shows you just how fundamental that security is to an organization in today's world. So I think it really begins with an understanding at the top and a translation of that understanding with the support of HR, with the support of other stakeholders in the organization into the ranks at large. And I think it cannot also be confined to doing an awareness training about phishing mails. Sorry, it sounds stereotypical, but that's what I see. Security becomes a compliance exercise. And you see, I think that security and compliance are two completely separate things. Security requires a lot of independent thinking, and compliance is basically reaching a benchmark. Okay, I think these are fundamentally different things. So when you introduce security, it is very, very important to emphasize the role and responsibility of every individual in the organization as being a stakeholder in the security process. There is not somebody who will do security for you. You are part of security.
Yes. Great. The next question is about the Switzerland. How do you see the cybersecurity world evolve in Switzerland the rest of 2021? What are your predictions?
Well, predictions are always a bit tough, but let me say something about the situation maybe, and then extrapolate from there. I think that if the observation that Switzerland does not exist in a bubble is very much connected to a global economy, is true in the real material world. I think in the cyber high lane, fast lane, this is even more true.
Yes.
And of course, all the opportunities that go hand in hand with globalization are basically scaled up in cyberspace. So where we have opportunity, we also have threats, we have risks, okay? And while we're the beneficiaries of like a globalization, even if slowed down currently due to COVID, still we are also affected by the risks. And if you consider the rate of distribution of threats, for example, in cyberspace, that makes us very much part and parcel of the attack surface. And why? Because I think we're also quite well developed in terms of like infrastructure, in terms of technologies here in Switzerland as a hub, for example, for like storage and cloud. I think that the more attack surface you generate, the less should you assume that in some way, because you are in a place like Switzerland, you are somehow, forgive my expression, neutral. There's no neutrality.
Yes.
Not where cyberspace is concerned.
Great answer. Thank you very much, Mr. Zimmerman. I know you have a limited time today. I would like to ask you my last question, actually. As a Chief Security Officer, what are your 3 most important pieces of advice for today's leaders or today's cybersecurity managers that they have to be careful? Just three most important pieces of advice.
I think, first of all, see the big picture. I think that we have just too many people in the security industry stovepiping, specialists.
Yes.
And one of the things that I at this point deeply sigh at is people who reduce a security problem, which very much happens in the human arena, to a technical issue. I think it's really important to have that big picture. Do not conceive of cybersecurity, as I mentioned before, as merely a technical issue, but as a comprehensive, horizontal and strategic endeavor that binds together different aspects of security. And I would in particular here point out organizational, personnel, physical, information / cybersecurity, okay, as opposed to IT security. Cybersecurity is not to be confused with the cybersecurity domain. I think that's a really important, many colleagues of mine have been saying this. I think that's a very important statement here. So secondly, accordingly, my next piece of advice would be that the CISO or the CSO, or whatever you want to call him, is first and foremost a security management professional, not an IT engineer on the security detail. The assumption that someone who has been taught, for example, computational science, math, physics, electrical engineering, etc., is automatically a security savvy practitioner when dealing with the security aspect of digitization at large, okay, in my experience, with very few exceptions, and there are notable exceptions, and I doff my cap to those people, a great respect for them. Like I say, with very few exceptions, this is a mistake. This is a mistaken assumption. Security management is a skill set that is, I think, developed by career security practitioners like myself over a long time. And a lot of it you can't gain with certifications. You cannot, you cannot really understand. I mean, I basically ended up in cybersecurity because when I worked for the Federal Council, a cyber attack called Stuxnet, for those of you who recall it, in 2010, ended up on my desk as the interagency coordinator for that file. So that's how I got involved in it. I had very little knowledge about it, and I had to learn about it as I went on. And I think my third piece of advice, sort of blends into the other two. I think that a security management professional in cybersecurity has to be able to act as a fulcrum, as a translator in the organization between the more nitty-gritty technical aspect. So if you're talking even to from the architectural level down to really the IT security specialists in a SOC. Yes. And translate their needs and their perspectives, their concerns to the decision-making CXO level. That I think is very important, and I think there is due recognition of that even into some of today's like certifications, like the CISM that I did, for example, which is ISACA's Certified Information Security Manager, very much focuses on that role. And at first, when I started that course, I was taken aback because I thought it was going to be about security. No, it's not about security. It's about translating security requirements, security perspectives to management.
Super. Very good. Thank you very much, Mr.
My pleasure.
Zimmerman.
Thank you.
Thank you being with us today, and have a nice day.
Thank you very much, everybody, and have a nice day. Thank you for having me.
Mrs. Mehta.
Good morning.
How are you
Mr.
today?
Aliyev.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Thank you for having me. You hear me well?
You're welcome. Yes, we hear you.
That's
thank you for accepting our virtual interview or webinar with us. It's our pleasure to host you. And as I mentioned before we start with Mr. Zimmerman, you work as an external consultant to the management of Swiss Windows AG before the company got bankruptcy last year.
That's
correct. As we know from the media, it happened because of the cyber attacks to the Swiss Windows. And would you like to share with us what happened to Swiss Windows that time? Would you share some insights regarding that process last year?
Everything you said is correct. And I'm obviously here not as a security expert. I'm not that, but I had the bad opportunity to feel it in my company and to lead the company through the cyber attack. And just to give some small background, Swiss Windows was a traditional Swiss manufacturing company with 150 employees, with 3 manufacturing sites, of course, producing windows and doors and supporting execution of projects. So we had manufacturing and the servicing part, and our production was fully automated. And what happened is that we did suffer a cyber attack, which was initiated by Rio ransomware, arrived in our system through the email attachment with the virus in it, which has managed to block basically almost all of our servers. That led to us being completely offline for 2 weeks. We could not access our data. It took us approximately 1 month to continue the production process, which was at that point mostly manual. It took us approximately 6 months to rebuild some of the interfaces, because if you can imagine a manufacturing automated process, you have quite a lot of interfaces between ERP and the machine itself. Yes. And definitely after 9 months, we had to file for bankruptcy. Yes.
And that was only one-time attack or series of cyber attacks?
It was a one-time attack, but as mentioned, we really suffered high damage. We did not lose users' data. We did not lose accounting data, but in the scope, we did lose some of the production-based data and some of the project-related data.
And where did the company make mistakes? What was the main mistakes?
That's the excellent question, because looking now with hindsight, there are a lot of small things we could have done differently. That's clear.
Yes.
Have we made a real big mistake, which was typical for our company that no other companies are doing? It's very difficult to say so. As you mentioned, we had external IT department, which I still think it's a really good solution for an SME, because IT is out of core competencies of one SME. We don't know them. We don't know that. And it's very difficult to recruit and to motivate a good IT expert. And then when you think you really need an all-arounder IT expert to take care of all the things, that's why we decided to actually engage external partner and just to keep one employee in-house for the first level on spot support. So this is the thing that we will definitely do again, that we would do again, given the chance. The biggest mistake might be not being aware of the risk that we were exposed to. Because business is running, IT is not on the mind of a normal manager. With the suppliers, with the clients, with the projects being late, with all the daily thing, the leaders of our company were not aware of the risks that they were facing. And if there is one mistake, I would say that was the one, because cyber risk is real, even for a small SME.
You are right. You are right. That's we see from the media every day that there are attacks against big and small companies. Doesn't matter, and especially in Switzerland, because the bad guys, bad actors, they know that Swiss companies, they have kind of resources and they can get financial benefit out of it. You just mentioned that it is not easy in Switzerland to have internal IT department. The personal, is it because of there are limited experts in the market, or is it because the quality of the experts we have, it's not enough?
I've said it would be our choice, and I would advise it. And it's not about the number of experts. Switzerland has amazing IT experts. It's really about the SME. If you think about the SME, 100, 150 people, manufacturing, most of them working in production, it is not a very exciting environment for a real IT expert that needs to learn every day, that needs to be challenged, that needs to be motivated. So it's a very difficult for a company of that size, from my point of view, to attract such a person, to keep it. And then, of course, there's always risk in the small company, quite a lot of things done without proper documentation. So it's really better to contact a person who is well aware what is happening in the market, what are the current risks, what are the current trends, and to let him assist you manage your IT risk.
Thank you very much. And maybe you have already answered part of this question, but it's still on my list to ask you. What should be done to prevent the cyber attacks from management's perspective? Because you have an experience, you are the best source to give us what the other managers can do to prevent kind of attacks.
First, managers need to understand that there is a clear risk. Then managers should really speak to IT, because IT experts, IT engineers, they always come excited with every new product, with every new version. But it's very important that also IT partner, internal or external, understands the business, understands managerial decisions, and they make the IT strategy together, considering the budget of the company, the real needs of the company. Because if you think we can all fly the first class and have the amazing flight, the amazing service, but sometimes SMEs are not able to pay the first class, and the economy might be really just as safe. But it's very important. It is very important that managers, that leaders understand that there is the risk and have an open and good communication with the IT. The second thing that I would like to point out is education of the employees. It is very important that the employees understand. The cyber attack was very sophisticated, and I could not blame anyone for clicking on the link, because the email seemed really real. I have seen it. I can't blame. But the employees nevertheless need to understand the risk, need to understand why they cannot just plug in USB stick anywhere or use just any wireless without any data. Employees really need to understand it. Additional point is that managers should really make with IT good security assessment and have good security policies in place. That is something what Swiss Windows might have missed, and that is something that I've seen with other SMEs here in Switzerland, but also abroad.
You are right. You are right, absolutely. We see also that a lot of companies, they see the security as a cost, not the investment. Then at the end of the day, they lose some kind of data or financial resources. Who is responsible for the result of the cyber attacks in the company, management or IT department?
Well,
do you think that the leaders or management must invest in cyber awareness education in the company?
It's mutual. It's really mutual, because there is a cyber risk. There is how you mitigate the risk, how you try not to get attacked. Then there is the recovery plan. If it happens, how do you recover? And then there is really all these procedures that need to be in place, backup security and so on. So having said that, it is clear that it is not either or, it is both functions that need to communicate, that needs to understand each other. Because recovery was really pure management lead. And from my point of view, recovery needs to be pure management lead. It was all about setting priorities and crisis management, where IT was more of an execution level.
Yes.
But in terms of preventing the attack, in terms of setting up the procedure and guidelines, there the IT should really take a lead. Understanding the business, that is where the role of IT is crucial.
You just mentioned that you are not a security expert, but I believe that you have great experience already in this field, and you are management consultant. Do you think that the management must be able to read or understand security, especially cybersecurity reports of their company? For example, mitigation plan, if you put in front of the CEO, do you think that the CEO should understand what's written in this mitigation plan?
If you think about SME, then such a report would really come to the CEO. He definitely needs to understand it. Because as you yourself put it, it's cost or investment, or is it investment to prevent further costs? Is it an investment to prevent the bankruptcy? Is it ever a good time for investment? Well, not really.
Yes.
Sometimes, is it really ever a good time to invest against some hypothetical cyber virtual risk? If you ask a lot of managers, I'm afraid that you will hear some no's. Yes. So it is very important that the manager, that the leader of the company or of the function within the company, and now I'm really talking about small companies, I'm not entering into corporate where there is really well settled, but it's really important that they understand, that they have the understanding of what the risk is. So they need to read the reports. That's clear. They need to be in daily contact with their IT team. They need to make the budget together. They need to make the strategy together, and they need to understand the risks.
Great answer. Actually, I asked this question also to Mr. Zimmerman. I would like also to hear your advice or your takeaways for today's leaders and managers in order not to experience some kind of attacks in their companies. What would you like to advise, like 3 main pieces of advice? Do you have something from your experience?
Okay, I'm not sure it will be 3. And once again, I'm not the expert, but I really think that the number of cyber attacks will just increase in future. It's so easy to start one. So what we need to do is understand the risk is real. It is real, it is happening. Then we need to work on prevention. Do your best to protect yourself, but don't expect that you can be 100% protected. I really don't think it's reasonable that an SME can really protect itself 100%, but make a good recovery plan. So in case it happens, you know where your backup is, you know where your documentation is. As mentioned, it took us 10 days to go back online. We were really 10 days, no one could reach us. We could not make any payment. No one could call us. We could not send any email. Our domain was dead in a way. So and there every day counts. In that recovery, every day is crucial and every day is important. So be sure that you have an excellent recovery plan.
Great.
And communication with IT, of course.
Yes, communication is also important.
I said that a few times.
Talk. Yes, that's important. So I think we have great insights from you, Ms. Mehta. Thank you very much for your insightful time and information that you shared with us. And I wish you all the best in your future career, and hopefully we'll see each other again.
Thanks.
Stay safe and have a nice day.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. You're welcome. So to our audience, it was our pleasure to have 2 guests from different perspectives, from different sides of the company, from Switzerland. But what I would like also to add that 66% of small business were extremely concerned about cybersecurity risk, but only 16% of the small business were very confident that their cybersecurity is ready or they have enough security measures in their company. So cybersecurity may seem overwhelming complex for small business owners, as Ms. Meta mentioned, but small businesses are growing target for cyber criminals. So it's crucial for them to be aware of the best cybersecurity practices and plans and policies. Simply put, as a small business owner, you have to remain prepared for cyber attacks. In this era of rapid expanding knowledge and technology and innovation, you can no longer afford to stay unprepared when it comes to cyber attacks. We see also from day-to-day news, small as well as medium-sized businesses are regarded as an engine that power growth of Switzerland and the whole world. However, many small companies, businesses stay susceptible to the cyber attacks right now in Switzerland. We at Swiss Cyber Forum and at University of St. Gallen, we see the consequences of the cybersecurity incidents every day on small business. In fact, there are a number of cybersecurity practices are in place in Switzerland. What I can advise to the leaders and to the business owners that cyber culture is the most important one to your company, because the most weak chain in your company is the human. 60 or 70% of the cyber attacks or data breach were happening because the human error. Invest your employee, invest your people, invest your management, that they have to be aware of the cyber attacks and communicate with government officials, communicate with National Cybersecurity Center of Switzerland. They are ready always to help you, National Center, and within 24 hours you will get reply from them in case you have any notification or any attack or any phishing emails, etc., etc. I believe that Switzerland is really good in cybersecurity space, is growing. No, nothing is mature, but it's growing. You can get benefit out of having a community, having the communication, having the talented employee and security experts in your company, and communicating with the government officials. Those are my piece of advice, I would say. And that's all for now, for today. In case you have any question to me or to Miss Meta, we will be very happy to answer them. You can use chat button or Q&A button. I see that we have 2 questions. I would like to read. Maybe it's also interesting for Miss Meta. Let me start with the first one. Why do you think that importance of IT, which is obvious, is not recognized or seen by the top management? Fact is that IT is often under finance, which is the totally wrong construct. Yes, that's totally right. IT mainly under finance or other departments, and this is underestimating of the power of the IT department or security department. That's why I would advise that in the board of the companies, there should be always one security person. The board should listen to the security expert of the company. They have to always have the communication and talk. And I would suggest that the chief security officer, chief IT security officer, information security officer should report directly to CEO or to the board to make them aware of the main risks and the threats to the company. The second question, which is also very interesting. First of all, there's a thanks for the webinar and for Mrs. Meta for the open conversation and giving insight. Ms. Meta, this is a question for you. If you are limited in time and the budget for security audits, would you invest more time in risk assessment to see what could be occurred or in disaster recovery to be able to react to the attack? Do you have an experience or do you have an answer for this question?
That's an excellent question. And of course, I don't have the answer for that. I would really, if I really had a limited budget, invest in risk assessment, because the risk assessment points out where the weak points of your system and thus mitigates or diminishes or minimizes the risk that an attack will occur. Because once the attack occurs, it's just disaster recovery. It is what the name says, it is a disaster recovery. You have to call your clients to tell them that you have a problem. You have to call your suppliers to tell them that you have the problem, that you can't make the payment. You have to call the clients to tell them that you can't make the delivery on time. You need an enormous cash buffer to deal with the situation. So if the budgets are limited, then even if it's not 100% safe or 100% secure, I would really advise, from my limited experience, to invest in prevention.
Great. I also have some comments on this question. If you're performing a risk analysis, helps your business to identify, manage, and secure information that could be vulnerable to the cyber attacks. This analysis helps you to identify resources, first of all, to ascertain the risk and build a plan for security controls that can help protect your company. Identifying secure threats and work on mitigation, or to having a risk catalog that has potential to prevent and reduce security incidents. You have to know what are the main risks, and you have to prepare the mitigation plan for those risks. Doing so is going to save you money or reputational damage in the long run. Moreover, knowing the organizational vulnerabilities presents you a better idea of where your organization needs to focus on. And it's estimated that cyber crimes around the world will cost approximately 6 trillion Swiss francs by 2021, this year. That's a huge number. If you look at the several other reports, that you will see that being aware of potential security threats will help you and your business to remain prepared. If you don't carefully evaluate your cyber risk, they can't be managed properly. This means that your company could be exposed to several security threats. Of course, it isn't possible for any business to be 100% secure. No one is secure. Also, government officials and big tech giants, we see from Microsoft attacks or Secure Eye attacks, but it is fully possible to manage and reduce the impact of the cyber threats in the company. We don't have any further question, and yeah, that's all I think for today. It was great to talk with you, Ms. Mehta, and wish you all the best. And to our audience, please stay safe. Take care of yourself, your family, and your company. Life will be nice after the pandemic. Have a nice day and stay safe.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Samir. Thank you, Erika. For those who want a preview of what's coming up, let me show what the next slots are going to be this week. We will be having, come on, there we go. This we had in this afternoon to the side. We will have a talk about IoT and security and private computing. What do they do with our data? Now, all of us, or most of us, have this kind of stuff nowadays, right? You have your iPhone, you have your smartwatch. So how do companies handling our data? How should we go doing about it? That's the talk from this afternoon. Yeah, Samir?
That will be actually a great session with our professor from University of St. Gallen, Professor Katerina. I wish you that you have time to be there and listen to Katerina, and you will get a lot of insights and helpful information in this session at 3 p.m. today.
Indeed, you know her personally as well. Yeah, true.
Yes.
Cool. Yes. Yeah, in the afternoon we have tomorrow we have AI for project assessment. How can you be sure that your in fact, how can you use AI to sort of know if a project is going to be successful or not? Because why AI is all about predictions, right? So people are using that nowadays to evaluate if a project that they're even planning already has good chances or not, based on the planning, based on the talks about the project, based on many factors, even factors that we don't normally factor in, but AI does. Sadly, we have to cancel the session from Wednesday afternoon about creativity and AI because the teacher, got sick, hopefully not Corona. But on Thursday, we continue our quest, this time with virtual career advisor going about recruiting and technology, also very interesting with Gudrun Sander. And in the afternoon, we keep on this topic. In fact, we tie both together, the AI and projects one with the recruiting one, going into AI and team processes and how to handle your team, how to make the work of machines and people together work better using these new technologies. And we finished the week with the smart mobility revolution, especially interesting if you saw yesterday's topic about gender mobility. Now we're going about the mobility itself, like the not only e-autos or self-driving cars, but everything that has to do with our decisions, how do we move about. And the last one is the future of tech and health. This is something that are getting new now because the University of St. Gallen has a new master's based on time management and medicine. And as we also have our Informatic and Technology Institute, you can see now we are bringing everything together. And this will be a very interesting session, which has to do with this. With that, I conclude. And thank you very much, everybody. And see you hopefully in the next session. Bye-bye, Samir. Bye-bye, Erica.
Bye-bye. Bye, Julia.